Hey, what up? What's up, guys? All right. So, been battling with my fucking computer. Um, I had like some issue with it shutting down randomly, and I like did so much. I bought a new PSU to test that out, and then like I checked all kinds of shit as far as like for viruses, for fucking um checked all the disks using like CMD and stuff. I like checked the RAM. I took the RAM out, tried the different ports on the motherboard, tried each stick of RAM. Like verified PSU's actually not the problem because it persisted. RAM, I don't really suspect the RAM because it happened with both sticks of RAM and both ports. I looked at like the Windows logger to event viewer to see if I could find out, something from the logs. Did a lot of debugging and troubleshooting with that. Ended up checking like the health of the disks. All my SSDs looked good, but like I did have errors with my SSDs when I did check disk. I installed updated my drivers, did like a Windows Defender scan. I did all like fucking 30 different things. Spent hours and hours just testing it. I did have like another crash this morning, but I did a lot since then. Honestly, I suspect that it was either like one of my SSDs is going bad, or it was something to do with like moving stuff around between SSDs and like the SSD becoming temporarily corrupted. So I'm not sure that it's fixed because I thought it was fixed yesterday and then it crashed again like this morning after like almost an entire day of the issue not like no shutdowns. So anyway, maybe it's fixed. I don't know for sure. My back's still fucked up, like big bad, pinched a nerve or whatever. So I'm out of work for a few days, unfortunately. Might be till Friday, hopefully not then, but it's really bad. Honestly, I've had to take like my medication and shit. I hate taking that, but it's that bad to where I don't really have a choice. Don't really have a choice. It's like ER bad. It's like emergency room bad. Grit your teeth type shit. Like can't even walk. Can't bend over. Nothing. Just like stuck. Pretty shitty. But life goes on, right? So we spent most of the day troubleshooting the computer problems. I'm like 50% confident that it's fixed. If it crashes again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and buy a new NVMe SSD because I kind of suspect that. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I do need to run a mem test. That's something because I did notice when I switched out one of my RAM sticks, like it did happen, but it seems like since like one of them it doesn't happen, like it only happened a little bit, but when I switched to the other one it seemed like it happened more often. But it's done that. It's like weird, like it will crash once in 12 hours and then it would crash like 2 seconds after booting it up, like 5 times in a row, and then it won't crash for 5 hours. So it's just very random. So I don't know. Maybe it is the RAM. I have one stick in, one stick is out right now. So And like, I don't know, maybe it could be that other stick of RAM, maybe it's the RAM port. It's really just wait and see. I want to make sure I put this on here though. Retest the other RAM stick. Run method. Okay, so I did add that. I have like this little file I made. Anyway, alright, so picking up where we left off yesterday. So if it does just crash randomly, that means, unfortunately, it's not fixed. But let's see. Yesterday we finished. For the most part, like we actually can start testing. I think today. That's the goal anyway. To actually crank up the server and the client and go ahead and run that shit finally. So we continue working on code to reconnect the client to the proper game. We worked in server and progression. We reviewed last session code, added code to forfeit the game in the case that the DC client has not reconnected within 5 minutes. Added code in server to call progression other client forfeit function, in this case to notify the winning player. We also added code in progression creating the progression other client forfeit function to set proper player data associated with game forfeit. We reviewed all code, everything looked good. Then we stopped at line 802 in server. So imagine that, dude. Imagine okay, there we go. My mouse, I have a new mouse coming in, like my scroll wheel's fucked up. I can't scroll wheel down. My new mouse should be coming in any day now. So, alright. Let's see where we stopped. We stopped right here. Alright. Our to-do is add code which re-enters the main while loop in the case that the received client token did match the original one. So that's what we're gonna do. Add code to re-enter the main while loop. And a way to accomplish this would be by we could just recall the we don't want to recall the entire function, right? Yeah, we can't actually do that because this function is much bigger. I was gonna say we could just like recursively call the function again, but I don't think we can do that because threaded client does more than just the main while loop, and I really don't want it to I don't want it to run all this preliminary stuff. Like, technically we could modify the logic to just bypass the preliminary section in that case, but I think like the better way would be like how do we so this is the main while loop. We need to re-enter it back into the main while loop. So how do we do this, man? How? Well, wait, don't we need to run the reconnect code? Like to... Well, that happens client side. I'm tripping. Okay. Yeah, so all that server side really needs to do is re-enter into the main while loop. And yeah, that's gonna start the data exchange process again with the new connection. And since this isn't like a function, and I really don't want to put this in its own function. I think honestly, I probably would just do what I said I didn't want to do and modify this threaded client function so that in the case of this reconnect, this rare scenario, we would just bypass this preliminary section. And let me just make sure. I'm pretty sure, yeah, we don't need to rerun this. We have client current client. Yeah, we don't need to run this again. Like, we already reassigned con. None of this stuff needs to be reassigned. It's already been assigned. There's no reason to run that. What about this section here? This is try, and what is going on in here? Alright. This sets the client ID. And then it gets the client token. So this is supposed to only happen at the beginning. Yeah, that's when we send the client token, right? But since the... Well, no, we already did the whole token process, right? Yeah, like we already did this. I don't think that needs to be rerun. Let me put a bookmark right here. Control Z. And let's get these other bookmarks we got. Alright, that's our only other bookmark. Close this. We have... Let's go down to this reconnect section. And what happens whenever they reconnect is we will receive from them the client token, because they have that saved. They reconnect, they resend us the client token, and then that lets us know they are a valid client. We authenticated them. Yeah, so if they send back the correct client, we would just start data transfer again. Like, they can keep that token. We don't really need to send them another token because we already like authenticated that they are indeed that client. So it's kind of like, I don't know. We're gonna add more security measures associated with the token stuff because I realize it's not fully like secure. But that isn't a to-do list. That's for later. But for now, so we can actually bypass those sections here. So the only section that we need to run would be basically right here. So this is where we would want to pick up at. Let me just finish looking at this real quick. So we don't want this to run. What about this part? While self-verified ID received. If ready, and kind of decode. Okay, yeah, we don't need to do all that, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think this needs to be run. So this whole section could be just bypassed. So this is where we would want to pick up at. So how do we accomplish that? Well, we'd have to have some sort of just like a boolean, probably. An attribute, a server attribute. So let's see. So we want to recall threaded client. And then we're going to check. We're only going to run this section here if we're not reconnecting. So I guess we'll have if self dot client just reconnected bool is equal to, if it's equal to false, yeah, so if they're not reconnecting, if they haven't just reconnected, then we would want to run this section. It'll say if self client just reconnected bool is equal to false. I'll just put this as a to do. 8425. Create the adder. Okay. If the client is running this for the first time, aka not recalling this threaded client function again after a reconnect. Yeah, so client reconnected bool is equal to false. So if they have not just reconnected, we would want to run all of this stuff. Hold up. I want to make sure I get my indent right. So if, else, try, and then we have our accepts. All right. So then we would put all that in that indentation. Let's review, make sure it's right. So we have if the client just reconnected bool is equal to false. If they haven't just reconnected, then we want to run this preliminary section here. Run all this try, accept. Okay, that's good. And then we need to add our corresponding else. So we go down here. Make sure we stay on this indent right here. And then we'll say, well, actually, we don't need else. We would just leave it at that, because we want this section to run whether they are reconnecting or whether they're not. We want it to run in both of those cases. So the only thing we really want to run conditionally would be this preliminary section. So yeah, that preliminary section now only runs conditionally, and then this will always run. And this will enter true try, and then it will enter into the main while loop. So now whenever we recall threaded client after we reconnect, it will check to see if this client just reconnected bool is equal to false. If it is false, it will run this preliminary section, assigning all this data that needs to be assigned to get everything started. And then it will run the main while loop. Yeah, so that's what we want. That's really easy. That was very simple. So now what we need to do is we need to create this self.client just reconnected boolean. So we'll copy this. We're going to go up here, and let's see. What is this? It's client just reconnected bool. So that needs to go, if we're doing alphabetical, HIJ right here. So client just reconnected bool, and it's going to start off as false. Yeah, so we'll say it starts off as false. The line created 8425 type boolean, and then the purpose is checked at the beginning of threaded client to determine if preliminary section needs to be run. Added to avoid running that section whenever the client had just reconnected, since it doesn't need to be rerun. Alright, and would be reset back to false. Back to false. Well, it does need to be reset, right? Well, yeah, I would say I mean, it should probably be reset, because if they disconnect again, well, that would never really happen, but it is just like a security measure. So we will just reset it back to false after after it gets checked. After it is checked in threaded client. There we go. So let's copy this here, and we'll go right back down. See what line we were at. It's 383. That's not where we need to go anyway. Let's redo that. Go to 383. Well, actually, yeah, this is it. So then we'll say else. And I wish there was a way to see, like, if this corresponded. Can't you see that somehow? If this is like the right indentation that corresponds with the above. Let's see here. Alright, if client just reconnected bool is equal to false, and then we say else, this means if it's equal to true. Elif client bool is equal to true. So in that case, we want to set it back to false. Resets it back to false, just because we want the boolean to be secure. Just for added security. Not actually necessary unless we change how threaded client gets called in the future. So it's really just future proofing our security wise here. So if the client just reconnected bool is equal to true, then we would do self client just reconnected bool back to false, and that's all that happens. Okay, and we'll just put a little div here, and I'm just like, honestly, I can't believe how bad this back pain is, bro. Like, I have been a little nibble on my fucking pain pill here, like every 15 minutes, just like a little tiny, because I don't ever take like the whole thing. If I took the whole thing, I would be like loaded, man. I just take like the tiniest little bite off of it, little by little, until the pain finally goes away. And I have just been nibbling on that shit for like every 15 minutes, bro, for like the past hour and a half. And it's just not going away, dude. It's crazy, bro. I can't believe how bad it is. Fuck, it's distracting. Anyway, alright, so at this point, both clients are verified to be connected online. Okay, so what else did we need to do? I think that shit hurt like a bitch, cuz motherfucker. Damn, son. Alright. So that's done. I feel like we forgot something. Oh yeah, I know we forgot. Duh. We have to add in the threaded client call. So let's... Where would that happen at? It happened down here, right? Everything. Okay, so now add code which re-enters the main while loop in the case that the received client token did match the original one. So we're going to add else here, and this is the same as saying elif original client token is equal to the received client token. That means it was a success, means the tokens matched. Reconnect re-enters the main while loop at this point. Alright, so then we'll say threaded client. Well, we need to say self.threaded client, and we have to pass in the con because that's our new con object, and then the client num is already assigned, so we can just pass it in directly like that. There we go. So that should do it, I think. So we have if original client token is not equal to the received client token. Alright. Then we break, and that just breaks out of, I don't even think, we don't need break right here, because we're not inside of anything, are we? Like we're not inside of anything. We're not inside of the main, like a while loop, right? That's really the only time you need break. Or if like you want to break out of a function. That's a silly basic Python question that I forgot. Like when you do, does Python break goes out of function or just while loop? While lop. But then a break statement only exits the nearest enclosing loop, like a while or for loop. It does not exit a function. So if you were to break, it would still, it doesn't break out of the function. Okay. To exit the function 2, use return. Gotcha, yeah. We don't really need either one of those things, technically. What we do need is to log. That's really the main thing we need to do. So let's add a log here. And just put this right here. Copy that. Server by PID process ID, current client ID, and this was gonna say this is really just a regular log. It's not nothing to do with the traceback. Let's see here. Non-connection error. No, we don't want it to say that. We want it to say well, I'll just put specifically what the code is. Original client token is not equal to. That's kind of how I like to do it. So we say original client token is not equal to the received client token. Bam. And it's that simple. And well, I guess we'll just put reconnect refused. Client spoofing. Yeah, so we don't know, like, you know, if the client is spoofing or if there's another reason for the error. But alright. And I feel like that's sufficient, right? Like, I don't know. There's something that needs to be done eventually to, you know, like we need to let them know, like, hey, your token didn't match. Maybe you can resend it. Maybe you fucked up in how you send it. But that really wouldn't be the case. That, like, because I'm the one who programmed the client file, I know that it's going to be coded correctly. So, like, either there's a bug in the code, or that's just not the right token. They sent me the wrong token or some shit. So that means they're spoofing or whatever. So I think we'll just leave it like that, honestly. Yeah. Anyway, all right, moving on. So this needs to be in that indent, and then we say, so we have Custom log traceback current log function, server PID, current client, original client token is not equal to receive client token, reconnect refused, client spoofing. Alright, and then we do else, which is elif original client token is equal to the received client token. That means the token's matched. Re-enters the main while loop at this point. So that's good. And then we call, we're already inside of threaded client, so we recursively call threaded client, passing in the new con object and the client num, which was hasn't been changed. And should remain the same. And then just to verify con, con up here is that new connection object, so we should have access to that, and there you go. So then it will go all the way back up here, and it would check to see if that client just reconnected bool is equal to false, which it would not be false. Oop, I forgot to add the code that changes that. That's why you always go back and review. So then we need to change this to be equal to true. And honestly, we probably should have this as a parameter. Yeah, technically this should probably just be a parameter of threaded client rather than its own standalone attribute. I feel like it could go either way, but it's probably best practice to have it exist exclusively as the parameter of the threaded client function whenever that's the only context it's used in. If it's not going to be used anywhere else, then that is indeed its sole purpose, so we don't really need to have it exist as a standalone attribute. So I think I will change that. I think more properly we should do it like this. So we'll do this. Client just reconnected bool equals true, and somehow I put that outside of the parentheses. Don't know how I did that. So self-threaded client client num client just reconnected bool is equal to true because the client did just reconnect. And then we'll say we'll get rid of this. And as a matter of fact, we're gonna do Control F on that. Get rid of it here, and then we're gonna go ahead and get rid of it here, but first we're gonna copy that note because we're gonna reuse that for the other location, which would be here, and this will now be a argument, and we'll say client just reconnected bool equals, and it's going to default to false. So the client just reconnected bool, and then we have the load function. We're going to have our args. We don't have our args here. Okay, well that's not best practice, right? Type bool. So we'll just do client just reconnected bool arg, or param. It's really a parameter. It's an arg when you call it. So client just reconnected bool, type bool, purpose. We'll just put a dash right here. Purpose checks at the beginning of the threaded client to determine if the preliminary section needs to be run. Added to it, run the section whenever the client is disconnected, since it does need to be rerun. Reset back to false after it is checked in threaded client. Alright, so now it is just an argument that exists inside of threaded client. It doesn't exist anywhere else. Client just reconnected bool. And why is this showing as white? Okay, I spelled it wrong. Reconnect. Reconnected. There we go. client just reconnected bool is equal to false. Alright, now let's continue searching for that, but we're looking for the self dot. Alright, and this is going to be just if client just reconnected bool is equal to true. And then this should be changed to, well, we actually don't need to reset it because it's not an attribute anymore. So we don't need to reset it at all. So we just remove that entire section. And now let's review. So back hurt like a bitch, man. Threaded client, take self, con, client num, and then client just reconnected bool, which is default to false. If we don't pass it when we call threaded client, it just automatically sets it to false, and then we check to see if it is false, meaning we didn't just reconnect, run the preliminary section, and there is going to be no else, and then either way it's going to enter into this main while loop. Once we get all the way down here after the reconnect, any second now, could probably just do page down, there we go, it's faster. It's going to get here to the exception, it's going to reconnect them, and then it's going to assign new con, and then eventually it's going to see if that original client token matched the received client token, and would call threaded client again, passing in con, client num, client just reconnected bool arg as true, and that should take care of that. Right, so now we are done with that code. Let's go up here and see about this to do. I think after this to do and this next little one right here, we're done with all of our to do. We actually, no, we didn't really need to add this last bit before we tested. I just wanted to add it, honestly. So let's go ahead and fill out our devlog here. We did the overall summary. We continue working on code to reconnect the client to proper game. We worked in server. We didn't work in progression at all. Not yet anyway. Specifically, we reviewed last session's code, and then we're going to just copy this right here. So specifically, we reviewed last session code, added code in server pi to, we'll say, route the reconnected client back into the main while loop. Added code and server pi to reroute the reconnected client back into the main while loop via creation of additional param in threaded client. Clients, yeah, there you go. All right. So add code and server pi to reroute the reconnected client back into the main while loop via creation of additional param in the threaded client. There you go. Yeah, there we go. Ensure data transfer happens after above section. Let's see things to do real quick. Add server-side code and server to re-enter main while loop after client reconnect. After client reconnects, get the threaded client back into the main while loop. CLN's 801 server. Yep, we just did that. Alright, so next is these little things to do, and then we can test. We do need to review. Honestly, I feel like we did review the sections pretty thoroughly. I'm probably not going to do that. I'm just going to go into testing and let the testing find the bugs for us, you know? Ensure data transfer happens after above section is run whenever they don't reconnect. To verify client received from CS verification. Verify that client was received from CS verification before terminating server-side game process. Add code which triggers game end relative to server-side understanding in case of 5-minute DC. And you know, we're gonna do that. We will do that another time because I don't want to add any more code. I don't need to add any more code, and I shouldn't add any more code because I added, this is 4 months of added code. We need to test. We don't need to add anything else that just isn't smart. You add as little as you can to be able to test again, and we have reached that point. There's no reason. There's no reason not to do the testing at this point. It's finished. Like it should be a closed loop. It's not an open circuit. You know, it's like you can't test the circuit until the circuit is closed. Well, the circuit is closed now, so we can test it. It should be anyway. It's probably not, but we think it should be. We're gonna go ahead and just test now. So let's see here. Ensure data transfer happens after above section, and this is actually gonna be what data transfer? This would be whenever they don't reconnect. Ensure data transfer happens after above section is run whenever they don't reconnect. Okay, right. So we'll say ensure data transfer after no client reconnect after 5 minutes. We'll say add code in server pi. This is server side code. To ensure data transfer after no client reconnect after 5 minutes, and we want to ensure the data transfer after client hasn't reconnected after 5 minutes. To shut down the game. Client receive from CS verification. What do I mean by that? What do I mean verify client received from client side verification? Oh, verify that the other client like has received the information that they won the game and stuff. So as soon as I go to ensure data transfer after no client, ensure data transfer happens, and we'll put informing the other client that client forfeited and they win after client hasn't reconnected for 5 minutes. Yeah, there we go. That's better. And verify client received, and we'll put via client side receive verification to be more specific before terminating SS game process. And the reason is this ensures the other client knows that they won the game before it gets terminated. And then this, I gotta piss, man, like bad. Add code which triggers game end relative to service understanding. Alright, and then this is gonna be add, copy this, add SS code in server pi to trigger game end after forfeit. Alright. Code which triggers game end relative to service understanding in case of 5-minute DC. After forfeit. That's cleanly. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I gotta piss like bad, like super bad. Right back here. What the fuck is this? There you go, that's better. Alright, so let's get back to it here. Okay, so review. We're not gonna review. We're just gonna do it. Yep, I'm not doing a review. We've reviewed everything enough. We're gonna jump into testing here. So this is the first time in 4.5 months we are gonna go ahead and crank up the server and the client. Pretty exciting. So it's probably just gonna be debugging, honestly. I'm not like too excited. So we're gonna triple up our terminal. We're gonna CD into Canasta main, and then I forget how to do this. Is that not Alt down? Alt down doesn't switch from one terminal to the other. Control down. Okay, did that change? Let's see. VS Code switch from one terminal to another keybinds. Control page down. Thought it was control down. So it's control page down. Am I like smoking dope here? That does not work. What the fuck, man? Control page down doesn't work. I thought it was control down arrow before, but that doesn't work either. Control shift boom. Control shift close bracket. Control shift close bracket. Okay, well, none of those work. Control K, Control S, and then terminal focus. So let's do Control K, Control S. Terminal focus next. Focus next terminal in group is Alt down. But that doesn't work. What the fuck, dude? Why are you being an asshole, bro? What's the problem? Like, I did this before. I was saying it's Alt down. Focus next terminal in terminal group. Focus next terminal in terminal group. So it's the same thing. Workbench action terminal focus next pane. Workbench action terminal focus next pane. It's the same thing. There's literally no difference there. And then control page down, that's the different group. But there's only one group. So the issue seems to be when I hit Alt, this fucking like cross arrow appears. I think the issue is that something changed to where whenever I am inside of terminal with cursor and hit Alt, a crosshair appears. Is the column selection when Alt plus mouse drag, but if it shows up by just pressing Alt, Alt key alone is triggering column selection or multi-cursor. This interferes with key bindings like Alt arrow, Alt key, especially in the integrated terminal. Disable column selection. Start a rectangular selection. To disable it, Control plus comma, column selection. Control comma, column selection. Enable that the selection with the mouse and keys is doing. That's not right. Okay. Let's just change it. We're just gonna change it to be, how about control right? No, how about not that one? Control, no. Control Alt right. Control Alt down. Okay, so only two commands. What is that? Control Alt right. Move editor into next group. Quick input. Cursor at end of quick input box. Move editor into next group. Okay. I see what we gotta do here. This is some bullshit. Where is it? Focus next terminal. We're gonna do Control Alt Shift right. Cursor column when text input focus. Cursor column select right. Honestly, I don't know what that means. How about Control Shift Alt down? That one also is taken. Cursor column select down when text input focus. Honestly, fuck man, it's always some bullshit, huh? What about Control Shift right? What about that? Control Shift right? Accessibility mode enabled. Text input focus. Cursor word and right select. Oh yeah, we need that. Yeah, that one I already Control caps lock right? God damn. Is there anything that's not taken, bro? Can we just... Like for real. I guess we just do Control Shift Alt right, and then this other one that has the cursor column select right. I don't think I used that, so we should be safe. So we're just gonna change this to be Control Alt Shift right, and then Enter. Now let's try Control Alt Shift right. There we go. Oh, yeah, we need to change left. So this is focus. And then previous terminal, we need to do left. So let's do Control Shift Alt left. And the previous one is going to be cursor column select left when text input focus. Yeah, so I think we're okay. Just do focus previous and Control Shift Alt left, Enter. Okay, now we do Control Alt Shift left, right. Okay, cool. There we go. Now it works. Now we can test it. So let's go ahead and test this shit. Let's do it, bro. Alright, so let's crank the server up. Pi server pi. Alright, there we go. We got our first bug here. From custom logger, import the custom logger. Import traceback, import line cache, token size, tokenize. From token, import exact token types. Can I import exact token types from token? What the fuck is this? Like, I don't even know what this code is, bro. Hold up. So the issue here is we have server imports the custom logger. Okay. And then when we go to custom logger, we have import traceback. And that imports line cache. Traceback is a Python standard library though, right? Yeah, that's not like something that I made. That's a Python standard library. And then line cache imports tokenize, and tokenize imports exact token types. Import error. Now why would that be the case? I'm guessing this has something to do with like outdated dependency, like library or some shit. So happening because you have a file named token in your project and it's shadowing. Oh, I see. Gotcha. So I have to change the name of this file. Alright, I see. Hold up. Was a import token. Import. Let's say from token import. From token import. That's not happening either. But, like, we import from token somewhere. Yeah, like we. Let's see. Wait, is this old? Hold up. This is not... This is not my code. This was the AI generated code. Hold up. There we go. Hash token is mine. Token is the AI generated bullshit. So yeah, this doesn't even, like, that's not even code that needs to exist. Alright, so that actually just needs to be deleted. That's vestigial from when I was adding the token feature. That was some AI code that I used to model my final version of it. Okay, so we just straight up deleted that file because it's old shit. Okay, so now let's do Pi server. Alright, so our second bug here. From hash token import generate client token validate token. Line 42 in hash token. Looks like we have a simple bug here. Okay, Python dig JSON string. Okay, you're right. I remember this. I was just writing out the series of events there. And this is gonna go on for a while here, finding these basic bugs where it is able to actually crank up. So we have server imports from network import in network n equals network, and then network self local server IP address get local machine IP via dummycon is not defined. So let's go to network here. Let's see. And this is going to be at line 22. Let's see. Oh, is there an... Okay, I think I see, because I moved those function outside. So now it doesn't know what that is, because that doesn't exist yet. So that doesn't exist. Move these inside of network indentation and change them to be static methods instead for organizational purposes. So I think in the meantime we can just move these two to instead exist prior to network, like so. So now we just have these standalone functions that exist prior to get local machine. And now, is it gonna work now, or was it not the issue? Okay, so it indeed did fix the problem. Alright, so no bug yet there. So now we can cd Canasta main and then crank up the client. So we actually have the server running here. And we're going to copy that. Let's run our first client. Okay, there's our first client bug. And this is going to be in client, line 29 from save logic import database. And then in save logic 285, serialize and insert function. Serialize and insert to DB. So let's go to save logic 285. It's right here. Invalid syntax. Save logic. What's this? Line 285. Expected expression. What does that mean? Add type ignore to suppress. Why? Oh, I'm an idiot. There we go. Gotta remove that colon. Doofus. Okay. And let's go back to terminal here. And run the client again. Okay, and it runs, and then it immediately terminates. Let's go back to problems here. So you got your client IP port combo is not defined. This is for if they're starting a new game, and if they start a new game and they're connecting to the remote server, which we're gonna end up removing that. Con equals end on network connect function IP port combo. So in this case, the IP port combo should be what should it be here? Network connect function takes the IP port combo. So what is the main port? So that's the IP, and it has to be passed as a tuple, right? So it needs to be the IP and then the port. But what is the port? And I thought that the port did matter. 49,152. Now I don't know if that's necessarily the one. Like, I don't know. I can't remember if it mattered client side. I thought it did matter. I was confused, and I still am confused about it apparently. So anyway, now. Okay, so this needs to be n.local. And then we do n.getLocal. Alright, so now we have conlock is not defined in here with conlock. so it needs the con lock. I understand now. Yeah, it needs the con lock. Okie dokie. Gotcha. So how do we get the con lock here? Let me just add this as things to do. So we're gonna put fix terminal problems tab issues. Fix existing problems in this tab. Alright. So we'll take care of that another time. Parse receive header is not defined. Where is this function at? Where does that exist? That's a static method. It's a static method in server, in the server class, and this is also in server. So how come it doesn't know what parse received header is? If parse received header is, so we also need to have this conlock here. So we need to add conlock. But I don't understand why it doesn't know. This is inside of server. It's a static method. So you have def init, def parse receive header, and then we have def threaded client in the same indent level. So why wouldn't it know? Parse received header. I'm confused here. Why does it not? How does this function not know the existence of parse received? Did I spell it wrong? Parse received header. .488 and 793. No, so it's spelled right. It doesn't know that it exists. Okay, so if I copy all this and just go all the way up, now we have def init, and then I just show this to ChatGPT, and I guess it has something to do with the scope. It's gonna have something to do with the scope. So I'll just paste that entire thing. And we're gonna say, why doesn't it know what parse received header is? Scope issue? The message you submitted was too long. Oh, shit. Okay. Well, I think that's enough for now. I'm gonna go ahead and stop. But ultimately, I mean, it's good progress. We still have to, we gotta fix it. This actually shouldn't, like, this is not what's stopping it from working, though. Probably doesn't mean decided while true. Line 880S listen, so it's just listening, but it's not actually ever. Well, that's because the client is dying before. So something's wrong in client to where it's just dying immediately. It's not like working. It's just there's some issue here in client that's causing it to just like run through, and then it just like runs through the file. So we'll figure that out next time. But anyway, it feels nice to have actually gotten to this point to where we're testing and debugging instead of adding a feature. So it's 4 months. This has been 4 months in the making. Pretty exciting. Even though we didn't actually get our game window to run, we didn't actually get it to pop up, unfortunately. That's, you know, next time. So we did an hour and what, 20 minutes. We'll just say an hour and 15, because I usually give myself a little extra, so then next time I need to short myself so that the time is accurate. Specifically reviewed last session, I had code server to reroute the reconnect client back to the main while loop, and then we began running the game to test it. Encountered a few minor bugs and fixed them. Yep, there we go. So working out the kinks, and there's not that many. There's only 3 little problems, and then something's going on with client, which is preventing it from actually like cranking up or staying inside a while loop. It's gonna be some simple shit, but at least hopefully it's gonna be some simple shit. So we did it. Pretty exciting. Began running the team tested stage committed. So this was part 20 to 757. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's go ahead and reconnect object server part 20, and then we'll say and testing. I will say game testing part 1. Exciting, dude, to add that. So now from here on out, it's going to be game testing. It's not going to be reconnect or save system logic. Such a long, major, massive feature addition is actually completed. We can now move forward with our lives and go ahead and test the stuff that we created. Yeah, so I'm going to say I think probably next session we'll actually have it debugged and actually get to see the game window. We'll see, though. You know, it might have some pretty ugly bugs, and it might take me a week before that happens. I just don't see that. I think I did a pretty good job. I think I'll be able to see the fruits of my labor with cards on the screen probably next session. So that's going to be it for today. Let's go ahead and cd out to the root project directory. We're going to get branch, make sure we're on that right feature branch. We are. We're going to get add to stage everything, get commit -m, paste in our devlog here, commit, there we go. And then we're going to do git push to push this up to the cloud, and there we go. Now we have our GitHub is updated, and yeah, let's go ahead and exit this out, and all we need to do is create our local backup here. So we'll do projects, we'll copy Canasta, rename, oops. Try that again. I accidentally deleted it. I didn't know you could use Control Z to undo